Hi everyone, this video walks through completing Packet Tracer assignment 10.3.4, connecting a router to a LAN. This Packet Tracer assignment is a part of the Introduction to Networks version 7 Cisco Networking Academy curriculum. So in this particular lab, we have two routers here with a connection off of each. So what I'm going to do is draw a box around each network or subnet, so we can see how a router divides everything up and what's the default gateway. So I'm going to draw a red box around this one here at the bottom. I'm going to draw a blue box around this one at the top. I'm going to draw a orange box around the network it shares with R2, because that is, again, every interface creates a whole separate network. I'll draw a pink one around the router and PC3, and I'll draw a green one around R2, switch 4, and PC4. So you can see here, each one of these boxes represent a totally separate network that needs to involve the router if you want to leave that box. Think of it like a fence, okay? Again, if PC1 wants to leave its network it shares with PC1, S1, and let's see what interface this is. It is G00 with R1. G00 is the default gateway. So PC1, S1 has to contact G00, whatever IP address it is, before it leaves its box, right? Or its network. So we want to configure these interfaces on R1. So let's go to R1. Press enter here. The password is Cisco, C-I-S-C-O. Enter, all lowercase, and then enable. And then the password is class, C-L-A-S-S, all lowercase. Now we're able to go to configuration mode and configure our interfaces. So we want to do interface G00, and we want to do IP address 192.168.10.1, 255.255.255.0. Press enter, and then we type in no shutdown to turn the port on. Now remember, interface G00 is the one that is in our blue box network here, and you see it already turned to green and it's negotiating with the switch. So this one is 192.168.10.1, right? So we want to make sure that PC1 here, while we're here, has the correct default gateway. So if we click on PC1, all right, 192.168.10.1, right? That is a good thing. We also want to make sure that our switch has the correct default gateway. So we can go to the switch here, enable, config T, and we do IP default gateway 192.168.10.1. Enter. So that will assign our default gateway for our switch. So everybody in that blue box network, the 192.168.10.0 network, has the default gateway of 192.168.10.1, which again is the G00 interface on R1. All right, so we can exit out of that one. Now we want to configure G01 on R1, which goes down to switch 2, and it's going to be the default gateway for the red box network. So we want to do IP add interface INT G01. Then we do IP add or IP address 192.168.11.1, 255.255.255.0, and no shutdown or no shut. And you see it turn on there. I can exit back out. And again, you see it start to turn green down here. If we go to PC2, go to desktop, all right, it does have the correct default gateway, 11.1. All right, which we set right there. And then we want to make sure switch 2 has the default gateway as well. So we are going to go here and do enable, config T, and do IP default gateway 192.168.11.1 and hit enter. So that sets the default gateway to 192.168.11.1 for all those devices over here. Now, so that means that if we ping from PC1 to PC2, it should be successful, but we have not configured the other side over here, the pink box, which is 10.1.1.0, and the green box, which is 10.1.2.0. So let's go to R2 to do that. So I can close out of R1. Oops, wrong button there, CLI. And we are wanting to configure R2's G00 and G01. Okay, the serial interfaces have already been configured for us. That's to communicate between the two routers only. So the password here is Cisco, all lowercase again. And after we type enable, it's class, all lowercase again. All right, and then we're going to go into configuration mode. So interface 10.1.1.1. Oh, sorry, interface G00. It's been a long day. Interface G00, IP address 10.1.1.1, subnet mask 255.255.255.0. We hit enter and then type in no shutdown. Enter, and my interfaces turn on there. All right. Now, while we're there, let's go ahead and configure that 10.1.1.1 subnet mask. Let's make sure it's on PC3, desktop, and it is 10.1.1.1. Then we want to make sure to go to S3 here, CLI, and do enable configuration mode and IP default gateway 10.1.1.1. All right, which is again that default gateway for every device in that network. So 10.1.1.1. Okay. Then let's go back to R2 here. And we are going to go to interface G01 this time. That's the interface going down to switch 4 in this network that includes switch 4 and PC4. And this one is 10.1.2.1. Okay, so IP address, we've already gotten to the interface. 10.1.2.1, 255.255.255.0, and no shutdown. Hit enter, and it turns on there. Well, let's make sure that PC4 also has it configured. 10.1.2.1, it does. Now let's go to switch 4, CLI, enable, config T, IP default gateway 10.1.2.1, and hit enter. All right, now comes the moment of truth. All right. Pinging these devices across the networks to see if they work. So obviously, again, you can ping to try to see if it can contact the default gateway. Then if it does, you can go all the way across. I'm just going to try to go all the way across to a different network and see what happens. So we go to command prompt here, and we're going to do ping, and we're on PC1. So let's try PC4, 10.1.2.10. And we get a successful reply after the first one fails. And if you retry it again, you should get 4 out of 4. So we just went from PC1 to switch 1 to R1, over to R2, down to switch 4, over to PC4, and then made it back as well. So again, just because you can get to one remote network does not mean you can get to all of them, because remember, each one has its own set of issues, or not issues, but set of configurations going on. So PC2 may have the wrong default gateway configured and can't contact R1, right? So this is something in the troubleshooting that you will get in the next lab that you'll do in Module 10. So definitely make sure you take away the configurations and how to configure interfaces on a router here, as well as how to do the IP default gateway command on a switch, as well as how to make sure your IP addressing information is correct on your PCs. So take that into your next lab where you'll be troubleshooting, because there will be issues, which is a lot of what we'll be doing in a real world situation where things are already going on and we're not starting new. And one last thing they want you to do in this lab assignment is, one, save your configurations on both routers, and let's see how we set a description on the router interfaces. So on R1, let's go in, and this does not affect connectivity, but let's go into interface G00 up there. That's the one that is in the blue box here that is connecting the LAN to S1 and PC1. So what you can do is, so that you can know which one it is when you are in a real world situation, you don't have the ability to trace the cable immediately, but you can set a description so you always know where that cable leads. So you can set a description by type under the interface. So we go to interface G00, type in description, and then we'll do connection to S1 LAN, local area networks, right? Or you could put blue box network, right? You can put as much as you want to in there, hit enter. As long as you configure one, the lab grades it, okay? So if we exit back out one, let's go to interface G01. That's the one that is down here in the red box, right? That's connected to S2. So for interface G01, I put description, connection to S2, or to LAN, or the red box network, right? Whatever you kind of want to put there. And then I'm going to exit all the way back out, and then I'm going to type copy, run, start, enter, enter to save my configurations. All right. Now this does not affect connectivity, so your pings will still work even if you don't do it, but you want to get 100 in the lab, right? So on R2, we're going to do the same thing. So interface G00, that's the one going up to switch 3. So we're going to put description, connection to S3, and you can put, you know, the S3 LAN or green box network, right? And then interface G01, description, that's the one going down to switch 4. So we might put connection to S4 LAN. Oh, I'm sorry. The previous one was the pink box network. I'm getting my colors mixed up here. So to fix that, I'm going to go back and do, description, connection to S3 LAN, the pink box network, and press enter there. So you can see how if you set a wrong description, good example here, it can get confusing. It doesn't affect connectivity at all because I named it something wrong, but it could get confusing if you did a show run many weeks or months later, or somebody else came behind you and did it and said, hey, how are both of these connected to the green box network? So you definitely want to be careful with the descriptions you set. Good example there. I did not mean to do that on purpose, but teaching moment, right? So I exit back out and finally do a copy, run, start, enter, enter, and we should have 100% now in our lab. We do. So that concludes our configuration for lab 10.3.4.